Welcome to Transform Today and Do It Again Tomorrow. This is a life coaching podcast that gives you things to think about each week that are going to help you dig in a little bit deeper into your life and try new things. Now, my goal as a life coach is to help people take a step back and understand their brains, how they're wired, and what they want to do next to be their best authentic self. This is episode number 17, 5 ways quiet time can help your brain. In the previous 2 episodes, if you've been listening along, we talked about how crazy important it is to have focus in your life. It's just, you have to have focus. And that focus is kind of the slow and steady tool that's running in the background of your life, even when no one's paying attention to you. And the next episode after that, we talked about how much more powerful it is to do things for internal validation, for yourself, rather than external validation to impress people. So today I want to build upon those things. I want to talk about another core ingredient to life that a lot of us find really hard to do. And it's pretty simple. It's having quiet, alone time every day. We've gotten so busy, right? But if I were to ask you to kind of pick apart your schedule to me, I bet you'd find like it's pretty busy with things that are important, but also busy with things like watching TV or scrolling on your phone. Things we do to kind of numb ourselves or escape for a little bit. We call these things like brainless activities, right? And we do these things that are because they're entertaining, right? It's passive entertainment, and that's great. We should never get rid of that. It's important to have this downtime that's relaxing. It's important to have fun. But with this busyness comes constant noise and constant distraction, right? It's go, 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 busy, 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 noise, noise, noise. It's just, can't get a breath in here. When our day is full of this nonstop, it's like a soundtrack, right? Of things to do, people to talk to, screens delivering nonstop entertainment to us. When our days look like this every single day, before we know it, we start to drift away from who we want to be because we forget who we want to be, right? That sounds out there and kind of big, but think about it. It's a disconnect because you're just go, 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 and you don't stop and check in with yourself. You drift away from who you want to be because you forget, who do I want to be? What's important to me? You got to check in with yourself to figure that out. Now, this disconnect I'm talking about, that can happen in really small ways. And that's what happens. It's like the old adage of a lobster in boiling water. You're like, oh, feels fine, feels fine. You can start feeling stuck, right? Small ways. I feel kind of stuck. Life feels pretty good, but you start to feel off. And then you're not sure what's next. But if you ignore it, those small ways of feeling stuck turn into big ways you feel stuck. Like your life has been so busy for years and you've devoted your time to people and to work you care about, but you feel like you've disappeared because you haven't slowed down to remember who you are outside of the work you do or the title you have. Okay, so those small ways of feeling stuck, if left unchecked, and if you don't pay attention to those small ways, they turn into big ways. So small ways are okay. Everyone feels stuck, but how are you going to react to those small ways of feeling stuck? Now, I've said on this show several times that self-awareness is necessary. It's like step number 1 to everything. You can't go through life just letting it happen to you, right? We have to examine our lives, reassess it from time to time, and we got to ask ourselves if we're on the right path. Does this path feel right to me? Have I changed? Have my goals changed? What's going on? We can't do any of this until we take quiet time alone every day to tune into it. Now, you might be thinking, hey, wait a minute. Is she talking about meditation? Okay, guilty. Yes, I am. But I found people get intimidated by that idea. And just the term itself, meditation, gets people like, ugh, nervous. And they have these big ideas in their head of like, I don't know how to do it. I don't know if I'm doing it right. I can't clear my mind. I can't do that. So they get stuck on the logistics of it, right? Of what meditation is. So they get stuck on that, so they just don't enjoy the silence. So today I'm kind of rebranding it. I'm rebranding meditation. I'm throwing away the term meditation right out the door, and I'm making it something we know we can do easily without failing. And that's sitting alone in silence. I don't care what you call it. You're just sitting alone in silence. Okay? Now, first, I'll get into the 5 ways I've noticed being alone in quiet time every day has helped me and how I've seen it honestly help clients I've coached. It comes up time and time again. It's like this secret little weapon that people are like, wow, I had no idea how much this would be helpful, how helpful it would be. Then after the 5 ways, we're going to go into why it's so difficult to do for some people, most of us, right? And some ways that might work for you to make it a habit, to make it accessible, right? I don't want to just talk about things. I want you to do the things. And we're going to set the bar low so you can make it part of your day without failing. So here's the 5 ways quiet time alone can help your brain. Number 1, it combats anxiety. Think about what anxiety is. Really, it's about being overwhelmed with the what ifs, right? It's like feeling like you have no control over a situation and then negativity takes over. Sitting alone in the quiet every day, now that doesn't make life easier. You're still going to face obstacles. Sorry, there's no quick answer for that. You're still going to face obstacles in your life. You're still going to have stress. You're still going to have anxiety. But when you sit with yourself on a daily basis, here's what happens. Reality becomes a stronger voice than your imagination. Okay? Reality becomes a stronger voice. The volume on reality gets louder than your imagination. And yes, sometimes we do have anxiety because our reality is really bad. It's overwhelming. It's just a fact. And we are in the storm. We are in the anxiety. The reality is too much to handle, right? But sitting with that reality, no matter what it is, and embracing it, it doesn't mean you magically love your life and life is easy. But the silence clears a path for you to walk down rather than avoid it. The anxiety gets stronger when we avoid facing the stress or the obstacles and we keep looking the other way, right? We're like, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. I'm going to just keep walking the other way. But your anxiety gets louder the more you ignore it. If we think there's a shortcut around the mountain, nope, there's not. There's no shortcut around the mountain of your obstacles. The only way around them are through them. It's like anxiety, it's your soul telling you to stop and look and just be with the stress and breathe. And again, that's not to say life is easy. Take a few breaths and it's easy. No, a lot of us are going through some stuff that's just, it should give you anxiety. Yes, sit with it, be with it, breathe it in. No, I don't tell you these things because, I Googled them or I read them somewhere. Nope. These are tried and true ways I've found to be really powerful through my own experiences and through speaking with people as I coach them. And I'll give you a personal example just to show you that I've done this work and I've experienced it myself. So an example I can offer about how sitting in silence relieves anxiety is when I went through a stressful time right after getting divorced. My anxiety, Lord, it was through the roof, you guys. I had no idea what was next. But I had a ritual of after putting my kids to bed, my kids were like 2 and 4 years old. So I would put them to bed. I would go back out to the living room and I would sit in the same chair every night in a completely silent house. And I would just sit there and stare at the wall or the floor. Total silence. Now, this sounds depressing, right? Gee, she's sitting alone in a dark room, quiet. It does sound depressing. And if I'm honest, it might have been a result of feeling depressed and overwhelmed. And that's okay. That's reality. But as I sat in silence, I always felt relief kind of wash over me. And it doesn't mean the weight of the divorce was lifted. I didn't know what was next, but I felt relief along with the 4,000 other emotions I was feeling. It just kind of like, okay, we're here. We're here right now. That's fine. Just breathe. It was almost like when I sat still long enough, I could hear hope, right? I could hear the hope. I could hear the word and. Like, yes, I am depressed. I'm alone. I'm scared. I'm all the things. But this is not the end of my story. I could listen for that hopeful and be okay with not knowing what the answers were or what was next. By sitting in silence, alone, I could sit with my reality and not let it have the last word. Okay? So think about that. If you have anxiety in your life, sit in silence and see how you can embrace it. You still can hate it. That's great. Anxiety is terrible. Life is stressful. But can you sit with it, face it, and not let the stress have the last word? Okay, so that's number one. It combats anxiety. Sitting alone in silence. Number two, it takes your brain off autopilot. You guys, we have so much going on, right? Life is crazy busy. It gets to be easy to kind of go through the motions and be tempted to live comfortably and not take risks or disrupt the routine. Just kind of go with the flow. But unfortunately, sometimes disrupting that routine and doing something deeper is exactly what you're craving. When you sit in silence alone every day, you put yourself back in the driver's seat, right? You're in charge. The same way sitting in silence, it doesn't take away all your anxiety. It also doesn't mean since you're in the driver's seat that everything's going to go your way. Like, I'm driving my way, yay! Nope, that's not what happens. It just means you have a sense of what you need to do or what you want to do. And you wouldn't have been able to hear or feel that if you didn't take the time to sit with it and listen for it. And we're all working hard every day. We do the same things over and over. That's great. But taking a few minutes to sit in silence, it helps us kind of let the jagged edges of our lives float to the surface. If something's not feeling right at home, at work, or in a relationship, whatever you have going on, if that thing is feeling off, it's going to quickly float up. It's going to come front and center when we're still. Our souls and our guts, they're just waiting for a moment to speak up. Like, dang, she's so busy. As soon as you sit still, it's going to speak up. I think about that like at 2 a.m. I don't know if you guys have ever had this. Like, I can wake up and something always comes to my mind immediately. That's the thing. That's the thing you have to address where you feel off. Like, I shouldn't have said that thing. I shouldn't have acted that way. I wish I could do this over. That's the thing. We all have that thing. It could be so small. It could be enormous. But that thing that wakes you up at 2 a.m, that's the jagged edge that's going to float to the surface if you let it. If you don't, it's going to expand and expand and expand. So when you get this information of what's bugging you or how you feel off, it can be scary, but it's also powerful because you have an idea of what can be next for you in life. You start to get the answers as to why you've been feeling stuck. If you have the TV on all the time, or you're always running around and overscheduling yourself, your soul gets buried under it all. And you're just along for the ride at that point. Okay, so number 2, takes your brain off autopilot. Okay, the third way sitting alone in silence can help you is it creates accountability. Ooh, I like it. Think about it. If you're busy and you're moving from one thing to the next and you're filling your day with all these distractions, it's so hard to remember your goals and to reach your goals. Your time and your energy, they're already spent. And you say what all of us adults have said, I'm just too busy to, and fill in the blank with whatever your goal is. Just too busy to get to the gym. Just too busy to clean my house. Just too busy to cook. That's what we say because we don't find the time to reach our goals. But when you sit alone in silence, you create a space to be real with yourself. You check in and observe your actions and your feelings, not in a judgy way, right? But in an objective way. You're just noticing. Events start to naturally replay themselves in your mind when you take the time to sit there. And this might feel bad, but it also gives you a new perspective. You might realize, I was being a little annoying at work today. Or I was so impatient. I want to do better at that. It doesn't mean you're sitting in silence and going down this dark hole of regret and shame. You're not replaying every mistake you've ever made. That's not what this is about. You're just noticing things that didn't sit right with you. Moments you didn't feel like your best self. Or ways that you kind of let bad habits take the place of good habits that could help you reach your goals. You're just being honest with yourself. You're being accountable with yourself. Sitting alone in silence, it creates accountability because you're stepping off this conveyor belt of your life, right? We talked about you're no longer the passenger. You're stepping off that conveyor belt. You're just looking at your life rather than just getting swept away by it, going along with it, not examining it or wondering why you feel stuck. When you step off, it's really easy to give yourself a pep talk about things that feel off. Then you step back on the belt with a new perspective, a new energy. So you become accountable to yourself because you're taking the time to figure out, hey, where do I want to do better? Okay, number 4, when you find time to sit alone in silence, you make space for the transcendent. I know this sounds woo-woo. It sounds a little new age, right? But when you sit in silence, you invite something bigger than yourself into your life. When you get to decide what transcendent means for you, right? Transcendent could mean creativity, right? It doesn't matter. I'm not suggesting you have to believe in God, but if you do, this is the space where many people feel they hear from God or a higher power in general. It's different from prayer because you're not speaking or asking for anything. You're just sitting and receiving. And boy, can that be hard, right? You just got to shut your mouth, sit there and breathe and receive. Sitting in silence, it sets the table to invite a higher power in, whatever that looks like for you. And again, transcendence might just mean creativity, a better version of yourself. It's mysterious, it's magical, but you got to set the scene for it, set the table. So whether your higher power is God, the universe, you're not sure, doesn't matter. Sitting in silence gives you a space, again, to just sit and receive. And sometimes this invitation kind of refuels you to move forward with more conviction, knowing you're on the right path. Or it also reveals new truths to help you discern what's next. And to receive this, all you got to do is sit in silence and listen for it instead of talking. And number 5, the last thing, how sitting in silence alone helps your brain. Number 5, it restores your attention span. We're all really guilty of this, right? Of multitasking. We do so many things all at once. We move really quickly from one thing to the next all day long. So sometimes we don't dig in deep into projects because we're already on to the next one. We're just quick. And that's okay sometimes, but it really takes a toll on our attention spans. I don't know if you've felt this, but I've definitely felt this. Reading a book, for example, that's harder for me than it used to be because I'm now used to this lightning speed of the world and instant gratification from screens. It's really hard to choose a book over shows on Netflix that come one after another. That's so easy and fun, right? My attention span definitely needs to bulk up. And sitting in silence, it helps train this part of my brain get better and better. So when you sit in what might feel like boredom to you, you're telling your brain, hey, inactivity is okay. You don't have to be busy. This is great. It's necessary. And when you do this daily, your attention span starts to get stronger because you start to realize doing nothing, sometimes it's good. And it helps you stay focused throughout the rest of your day, so it's worth the quick break. It restores your attention span. And again, this boredom, we're kind of all afraid of it, right? Dayton Daily News just did a video of me. I was talking about this, and I said, boredom is like a salad for your brain. Our days are often full of what I call junk food. When you're scrolling on your screen, that's junk food for your brain. But boredom is like the salad for your brain. You need boredom. And so many people commented to me like, that's great. That's such a great analogy. Boredom is salad for your brain. And it's true. It nourishes your brain in such a healthy way, but it's harder to reach for a salad than it is for potato chips, right? You're not alone if you're finding it difficult. But that boredom, it's nourishing. It's going to feed your attention span. So again, let's review those 5 things. Sitting in silence alone every day combats anxiety. Number 2, takes your brain off autopilot. Number 3, creates accountability. Number 4, makes space for the transcendent. And number 5, restores your attention span. Again, I didn't Google these. I didn't say like, hey, AI, tell me all these things. No, these are things I've experienced myself and I've watched in action with several clients. Now, just because we know the advantages that can come with being quiet and alone each day, it doesn't mean we're going to do it, right? Let's be honest. It's easy to talk about, harder to do. So why is it so hard? I think honestly, it's because it's scary to think about what we're going to discover about ourselves. It's easier to be distracted. It's so funny because I was writing show notes last night, and then my daughter was watching reruns of the show called Blackish. And that show was about how they were like, we really need to spend more time alone. And they were saying like, yeah, I'm going to read more books. Yeah, I'm going to meditate. And they both couldn't handle it. They were like, I hate being alone with my thoughts. I think about global warming and I think about how we're going to send our kids to college. I don't want to be alone with these thoughts. I just want to watch TV with you because it's scary when you take the time to sit alone with your thoughts. It's okay. There's truths there that are scary, but the knowledge is powerful. It can set you free. So the truth of who we are and what we're running from, that's often uncovered when we sit in silence. And what we're running from doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be traumatic. It just be like the things that you're procrastinating on. I'm not getting to the gym this week. I'm not taking time to write that book I wanted. Those are the little things you run from, but 50 years from now, they start to be the big things that you're like, dang it, it's not the life I wanted to live. I should have done something different. So if you're struggling to find time to do this, know that you're not alone. It's so common to feel this way. It can be overwhelming to sit in silence and see what your brain does, right? You might avoid it because it's unclear how it's going to benefit you, or if you'll really feel a difference. You might feel skeptical, like, really? Sitting alone is going to be helpful? We're such an instant gratification society, right? It's if I tell you to sit alone in silence and you'll slowly start to feel a difference, you might be like, yeah, doubtful, next. And you might feel like, I don't have the time to do this every day. I am busy, and that's my reality. But I really want to help you make this into a habit. So, answer me this. Do you have 10 minutes a day? If you don't, wow, you really got to look at your life if you don't have 10 minutes to spare. And remember, in a lot of these episodes, I tell you to set the bar low so you don't choke on it, right? Set the bar low so you don't choke on it. No one's asking you to sit for an hour in silence. I'd be mad if you did. I'd be like, come on, you got a life to live. Don't just sit there. An hour is too much. 10 minutes every day. That's all you got to do. So next, when in your day do you think this would be best for you? Think about that. And be honest with yourself. So many people are like, you got to do it in the morning. No, you don't. Do whatever feels right for you, however you're wired. Is it first thing in the morning? Would it be nice to take a midday break around lunchtime? Maybe right before bed when you're winding down might be a nice ritual. But you got to be specific about the time. And put it in your calendar. Put it in your phone. Set a reminder. Set an alarm. Be specific about the time and the location when you're going to sit in silence. Otherwise, it's going to be something you only talk about doing and not actually doing. Okay, so be specific. Now, when you sit in silence, if it feels like the silence is too distracting, it's too much, you can pull up nature sounds or relaxing music in the background without lyrics. I know it's ironic to say, get your phone out, but you can use your phone for this. It's okay. Why not use technology for good, right? You can find several apps that have nature sounds or prayer bells. Gregorian chants are kind of relaxing. I don't know, they're creepy for some people, but I kind of love them. There's a thing called binaural beats, Binaurал, binaural beats. Just really cool background sound you might hear like at a spa. Anything you want in the background. It doesn't matter. Find your flavor. Find what works for you. I tend to have something playing in the background because I found it does help my brain relax and enjoy the 10 minutes rather than run around like a crazy puppy who got into the Halloween candy, right? It helps my brain like chill out, just be present, be right here. So consider all these steps when you're trying to set up your routine. And I really want you to give it a try this week. Again, I don't just want to talk about things. I want you to do the things. It's not going to hurt you if you try it and you hate it, right? There's no risk here. 10 minutes a day. And of course, I want you to write down things that come to you while you sit in silence. We can think of things, but then they're gone. So write those things down because they're golden nuggets of truth that are going to help you throughout your life. And it doesn't mean like while you're sitting, you're thinking, oh, I got to write that down. Oh, I got to write that down. In fact, it's okay. Keep a piece of paper next to you so you can jot things down. That's great. We're not calling this meditation, so we can bend the rules, make up our own rules, do whatever works for you. Don't worry about doing it right. Just do it your way, okay? So it becomes something you crave rather than something I gotta do. I gotta do this stupid 10 minutes. Rebecca said I have to. Nope. I want you to make it something you crave, something that feels really good, that your brain starts to say, oh, I can't wait for those 10 minutes of release and relaxation. And this won't be a life hack, you guys. It's not going to be a quick fix that magically changes your life. But after several weeks of doing this, you will absolutely see small changes if you do it every day. It might be you find yourself being a bit less impatient in a grocery store line. You don't pull out your phone anymore, but instead you just stand there and you breathe. You might find you have more confidence and joy as you take on your work and your relationships because you're taking time to check in with yourself. You might find yourself worrying less about the what ifs and instead just enjoying the what is, or just facing the what is without scrambling to find the answers. I'm so excited for you to try this. I want to hear how you felt the changes. I really want to know how it's changing you after you've done it for a few weeks. All it takes is a willingness to sit for 10 minutes wherever you are. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be perfect. In nature, great. If you're at your desk, great. Hey, sit under your desk. Hide from your coworkers. It doesn't matter. Whatever works for you. We're not waiting for the perfect time and the perfect place. Life is chaotic. Breathe in the chaos. Stop and do 10 minutes today and do it again every day to help your brain operate at its best so you can be your best. Thanks so much for listening, you guys. I hope this episode brought you some things to think about and that you're willing to push yourself to try something new. Like, why not, right? Even if your life is pretty great as it is, pushing yourself to do new things, it's often the thing we needed to refuel and keep going and stay energized. Have an amazing week. I hope you sit in silence and listen for what's next. Your brain will thank you for it. You're awesome.